Hey, welcome back to Brewers Breakdown. I'm Sophia Minnaert, and usually I'm the one asking the questions, but this time we opened it up for you, the fans, to ask questions, so we're going to get right to it. And one of the big stories for the Brewers this season has been all of the injuries that they've had to overcome. There are a couple of players on the IL, so we'll get you updates on some of those players. The first one, Daniel Vogelbach. He suffered a strained left hamstring going back to June 23rd. He has been placed on the 60-day IL because he suffered a new injury while he was rehabbing down in AAA with the Nashville Sounds. So he's been working his way back from a right foot injury that he suffered sliding into a base, but he is eligible to come off of the IL whenever Vogelbach is ready, and he is playing well down there with the Nashville Sounds. Another all-star infielder, Eduardo Escobar. Unfortunately, they lost him in the series finale against the Washington Nationals. Another hamstring injury there, but they're hopeful that Escobar, after having an MRI, he's expected to miss just about 2 weeks, so close to the minimum amount of time, and he should be back hopefully pretty soon. The Brewers are also without one of their all-star aces in Freddie Peralta. That's going back to his last start against the St. Louis Cardinals. It was right shoulder inflammation for him, so he had to leave that start early. So they shut him down from throwing for a few days. Fortunately, he has picked that back up, so he's back to playing catch. He's resumed his throwing program. He's been strengthening that shoulder, and he's eligible to come off of the IL after the 10 days on August 29th. So it's possible that we could see Freddie Peralta back in the rotation on the upcoming road trip against the San Francisco Giants. If not, they'll push him back to the next homestand. So the first question is from Derek, who wants to know who's going to be an X factor for the Brewers down the stretch. And I'm going to go with bullpen on this one, and it's the rookie Jake Cousins. He has been so impressive since he came up and made his major league debut back in June against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And in that appearance, it was 5 strikeouts for him. That was a franchise record for most strikeouts by a reliever in their major league debut. And from there, Jake Cousins delivered 17 consecutive scoreless appearances. He has been really nasty every time he's been on the mound. He features a wipeout slider. His earned run average is just .46, and his opponent batting average is just 115. So he's really done a great job of limiting the damage. He could certainly be that X factor for this Brewers bullpen down the stretch. Garrett also had a question about manager Craig Counsell and how he might manage the workloads and the innings for some of the starters like Adrian Houser, Freddie Peralta, and the rest as we get into September. And this is a question that I asked David Stearns about the other day. Considering the division lead, and they're continuing to add to that here with their final season series against the Cincinnati Reds, but David Stearns said there is still a lot of baseball left. There are still more than 30 games on the calendar, and he said we are still taking the approach of every game is important. We're trying to win every game, win every series, and this is going back to spring training. Their philosophy has been prioritizing health and rest for the starting rotation and also for the relievers to keep them healthy for the long term. They've always had their eye on a 7-month timeline to keep pitchers strong, healthy, and in a good position for a pennant race here in September and October. So I feel like they've certainly done that. And David Stearns said those conversations have not started yet in terms of how they'll line up their rotation for September. So there are a couple options. We know that David Stearns and Craig Counsell like to be creative at this time of year. Dennis had a question about Christian Yelich and the adjustments that he has made at the plate recently that has led to all of the hard contact and production that we've seen from Yelich here lately. And certainly the numbers back that up. Over his last dozen games, Yelich is hitting over 350. He had the big 6 RBI game with 2 home runs, including the grand slam against the Washington Nationals. And he's starting to drive in more runs as well. So Yelich is certainly finding that hot stroke at the plate, something that Brewers fans have been wanting to see this season. And hitting coach Andy Haynes says it's all about the foundation for Christian Yelich and the timing for him. That's really what has been the biggest factor for him here lately. So for him, it all starts in his legs and his foundation. He's been able to stay behind the ball more. He's able to drive the ball better, getting the ball up in the air, something that we weren't seeing from him in the early part of this season. So when he's getting that load on time, when he's raising that foot and able to stay behind the ball, that's when you see the hard contact that we're used to seeing from Christian Yelich. And he was in a really good place with that, according to Andy Haynes, at spring training at the early part of the season before the back injury. And ever since he came off of the IL, that's just been the biggest struggle, is finding that consistency with the timing at the plate. He feels like he's found it here lately, so hopefully he can keep that production going. The last question is from Robert, and it's a question about all the winning the Brewers have been doing and how that compares in franchise history. And Robert, the number that the Brewers are chasing this season is 96 wins. That's the franchise record, the mark that they were able to set in both 2011 when they were 20 games above 500, and then again in 2018 when they won game 163 against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. So they have been a season high 28 games above 500 here in August, but the number that they are chasing is continuing to add to that win total and secure their 4th consecutive postseason appearance. That's a wrap on Brewers Breakdown. Thanks so much to all the fans who submitted great questions.